everyone. In today's video I'm going to show you how to tie this woven fly. It's a very simple one. There are just a couple of materials you will see in the next part of the video, but like cocktail yarn, some thread, CDC and iced up, that's it. Like super simple. And I think this fly is a really good one, and I'm making a new box for me. You will see it in the next part of the video. I'm traveling to Serbia in a couple of months, so I hope I will have time to fish there, and I want to have some trout flies ready, and this is going to be one of the flies I will take there. So all the videos I make are definitely flies I'm using for my fishing. So let's get into tying. Well, materials first, then tying. So for the materials, first of all I will use jig hook with jig of tungsten bead, which maybe doesn't make too much sense to you, but it does to me, because what I can actually do, I will show you that on the photo, I have more body exposed when I'm using this combination as opposed to regular hook plus tungsten, which is jig off. For the thread I will use Semperfly 18/0 in red. For the body materials I will have these two colors of embroidery threads. Obviously you'll have to find your own alternative to this if you don't have this brand, which I honestly don't know which one is it. It's just Chinese stuff, so those codes are probably not very useful to you. I like to cut it in 2 strands so I can have some length to work with, and each of these strands consists of couple more strands. Usually if you twist it, you will see them open. Okay, they open in the middle, and then you will see they have, like, I think 6 more strands inside. Yes, 6 more strands, and those strands, depending on the hook or fly size, you can take 1, 2, 3 or all and use them for the fly. In this case I will just use 1. But how to get this strand? Obviously you need to find a ending, and then what I like to do is I kind of keep it tight in my hands, and I just pull over here and I see which one is moving over there. So this way I can actually just pull as much as I want without ruining the whole neat shape of this. I just prefer to have it like this, so I have more control, less waste, and so on. So after I have those strands divided, I will start tying my fly. Let me just continue. For the thorax I will use iced up prism. This is some light peacock color, and CDC, and that would be all. Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to tie another woven fly, and this time it's going to be a Mayfly on the medium-sized hook 14 with 3.3 jig of tungsten in copper. I'm using this jig hook because, as you can see, I can expose more body to it. So as I was showing in materials, like if you use regular hook you'll have this much body. If you have jig hook you have this little angled part here that you can just fit your tungsten. That's it. Now I'll start by first fixing this tungsten in position, and to do that I'll just use black thread because it's what I have on my spool. It's a bit thicker and I can do it a bit faster than with 18/0 thread, which is pretty thin. I'll cover half of the body here. This will help me later to build up the taper, but more importantly the reason why I'm covering half is because I'm using this slippery GSP, so when I cover a bit of shank then everything won't twist. If I'm building just the base of thread here near the bead, when I try to twist it, it will twist. If I was just figuring of 8 like this without this thread base, if you try to twist it, it will twist more easily. So I'll make a couple of 8s around between the eye and the hook shank, and then I'll just cover a little bit of shank with thread, building up the taper and increasing the tension between the hook eye, the bead and the hook shank. So after just a couple of reps, it does move but it doesn't rotate, which is what I want. Now at this point I have very tiny taper, and I'll take those colors that I already mentioned, red and kind of yellowish olive, just even up the tip part here. I'll go back, I don't need it now. Okay, so I'm putting the lighter color on my far side, so far side, and on my near side I'll do the red. Let me show you close up now. When you twist the thread, well, untwist basically, this is what happens. You don't get those strands kind of untangled, and if you just put your needle inside, you can untangle them. I took two, which I don't need, I need just one, so just take and slide it out. It's a very useful thing to do. Now here I can just use this technique, pull it under and secure everything. Now I'll use my middle finger from the far side, index finger in the middle and thumb on my near side to hold these two strands like this apart, so I can just keep them on both sides of the hook shank. Oops, I didn't tighten the knot, the thread. Just okay. Okay. So as I was saying, I'll use my 3 fingers here to keep those thread apart, and obviously other fingers you can use just to keep everything. I build up a bit more taper now, which is okay. Nothing that's not planned. Now, as you can see, I'm keeping those apart and on the sides of the hook. Okay, now I'm following the hook shape, and I'm using really tight wraps over here. Now at this moment I'll like to add cocktail yarn for tails, and the reason why I'm doing this is the opposite, so not the tails first and the body second, is because as I was tying, I was thinking how I can improve maybe some steps and so on, and I realized that I won't be able to see the thread if I do the tail later on, and you will see why. So I'll just make this tail more or less body length. Now it's very useful to use pinch and loop, so pinch thread between your fingers, loop it, and then go from under and up, tighten it up, tighten it up, tighten it up. And now if you don't want more taper, you can just continue wrapping this and finish off your fly, well, underbody. Okay, I'll stop somewhere where I want my abdomen to end, do a whip finish, and that's it for now. Now usually when I'm tying, I'll face the vise towards me, and this time I will not do that because you need to see what I'm doing. Now because it's a jig hook, it's inverted, yeah, so this would be my back cover, this would be my abdomen lower side. I want to do lighter color, which is away from me, it goes over the red, and then I just pull it from behind and through the loop, making an overhand knot. That's why this is called overhand weave. And then when I have this overhand loop that can make a knot. Then take the darker strand, push it a little bit out, and then just by making this little loop over here, as you can see, just put this loop over the hook and then go and tighten the knot. Now the reason why I put the tail the second is you won't be able to see the black thread after this. If I was doing tail first and then the body material, sometimes you just don't cover the thread, body material thread with your tying thread. You don't cover it enough, so when you make a first knot, a little bit of tying thread gets exposed and it's visible. Completely irrelevant for fishing, but from aesthetic side it can be relevant for some of you, so why not mentioning it. So again, make an overhand knot, create this kind of loop that you will thread over the hook, and then by altering the angle you can alter the size of the red versus this yellow part. It can be more narrow or more wide. So I'm just doing this. Some people, they know how to do weaving with those needles, crochet needles or whatever you call them. I think it's like cumbersome for me because I'm using camera, so using them now wouldn't be very useful, and I actually got quite used to doing this. As you can see, it goes relatively fast. I mean, in front of camera it goes a bit slower than usually, and the angle is 90 degrees from what I usually do, but when you get used to it, it gets pretty fast. Of course, the thinner the thread, more knots you will need to use, and then the slower the process. Now, you can obviously finish off the fly with red thread or black thread or whatever you need. Not so important, just to know that. Oops. I'm sliding it. One little note, quick note here. You can always check how you're doing by like changing the angle over here. By making the smooth underbody, you will let this knot slide much easier as opposed to having bumpy and rough underbody, which is, well, not so easy to slide down to the thread. So I'm just sliding this, and then I push it back to tighten the knot. When I think that something's not right, I can just move back, slow down a bit, push something, then tighten it again, and so on. So let's recapitulate. Let's say it again. Lighter goes over the darker from behind, and then making an overhand knot, tighten it over the hook. Okay, this should be plenty. Now I left some room, as you can see here, for me to reattach my thread, but before I reattach it, I'll just run it through the wax to make it less slippery, so it can catch with less straps. So okay, I'll test it. Looks good. Tighten this knot again, just in case something got a bit loose. Now without any tension, transfer the thread towards the front, towards the eye, with 2 loose wraps around the hook. Make this over your thread, body thread, and then tighten everything with fingers, and then tighten with tying thread to make everything permanently locked. Okay. Now the reason why I'm using GSP is same reason as I've been using in one of my previous video. It's the last video, sorry. It's strong, and because I'm using dubbing loop, I can actually cinch down. So I make a loop, and when I'm tightening the loop with the dubbing twister, I can cinch down and I can make it super tight. Now I'll attach my dubbing twister. Let me just clean it. Okay, dubbing twister is heavy, it's brass. Just attach it down. Now for the body, it's this peacock by, as you can see, Royal CC. They have finer diameter fibers of this dubbing, which I really like. As a hairline, they used to have like really good ice dub, but nowadays they don't have so good. So that's why I moved to this one, just better and cheaper, which is good. So I need some CDC at this moment. For this purpose, don't be afraid to use the lowest possible quality of CDC, because you don't need to use much and you just need a couple of reps. So I take CDC, I take this clip and got your CDC. Oops. One side is enough. You don't need to slow down your fly descent too much. Now when you put everything in the loop, close the loop with your fingers. You can see it here, and just close it with your fingers, and then you open the clip, and don't close the clip until you're safe distance away from it. By spinning the loop counterclockwise, what you will get is that this loop will jump towards the rear, and if you have wing case cover, it's very useful because it will go tight into it. So that's the reason why I use that. And as you can see, I have very thin dubbing noodle over here. I can easily control the amount of everything, and I'm going like one over another until I reach the end of the thorax area. And then now I'll go into the CDC, and CDC goes literally just, you slide it down the bead. So basically you want it all in one spot, just to make this relatively narrow collar. After that, if you're using GSP, and you should, GSP is called differently, nano silk, power, thread, depending on manufacturer. They're all good. So twist your tying thread around the loop a couple of times just to lock everything a little bit better. I'll just go 1, 2, and 3 reps. Now no tension on the loop. Cut the loop out and keep it away from your tying thread. You don't want to cut both. Flatten the thread, wax it a bit more if necessary, because again it will make your whip finish knot a bit tighter, more durable. But just in case, I'm doing 2 knots with GSP, not that I had ever a situation that will actually unravel, but yeah, just be careful. I want to be cautious. And then that's it. So guys, this is Mayfly with contrasting body, which I think, and some would agree, some wouldn't, so I guess. I think this can be a trigger for many fish, and some nymphs are actually looking like this, so why not imitating it? Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and see you next time.